I didn't know he had a pornography addiction until I noticed that he had erectile dysfunction when it came time to have relations with me. And I didn't know what the erectile dysfunction was about. But over time I began to realize that he was listening to stuff he shouldn't be listening to in front of his children. These children were 4 and 3. The boy found the remote control. The father had accidentally left the pornography tape in the VHS. And the 4-year-old boy flipped the switch and saw what was on. And he had his 3-year-old sister try it on him. They continued to do this with each other until they were 6 and 7.
That was Mary Teresa Jackson, a counselor here in Savannah at Thunderbolt Counseling Services, sharing her experience of being married to a sex addict whose vice was pornography. Sex addiction is something you've probably heard of. It has become very common, especially within the celebrity realm, which is part of the reason why people don't take this disorder seriously.
Unfortunately, with sex addiction, because sex is so common and normal, and I feel like with our society these days, just a lot more open to people having sex and having multiple partners, and it's very much accepted, in our society. So a lot of times people say, oh, well, I'm a sex addict, because they want to, have an excuse for whatever their behavior is. And I think that often gives the people who truly are struggling, maybe with an addiction, it's kind of like this cop-out thing that people say they have so that they can justify cheating or justify, whatever it is that they're wanting to get away with.
According to Daily Mail and WebMD, more than 9 million Americans of all races, gender, and ages suffer from this addiction.
When you talk about sex addiction, it's really quite a wide range. There's various kinds of sex addiction. There's the process addiction, sex addiction, where it's more of a hypersexuality, where a person will maybe experience more fixation in terms of needing to masturbate or have sex with someone daily throughout the day. Then you have a different level where it becomes a paraphilic diagnosis, right? Paraphilic or paraphilia disorder. And that's where you have more of like exhibitionism, sadist-like behavior, BDSM.
One question often asked is if early exposure to pornography can lead to a possible sex addiction.
My experience working with people, pornography comes up a lot. These days, it's anywhere. It's on your phone. You have it sitting anywhere. And so what's happening is that kids are seeing it a lot earlier than they would, even 20 years ago. They're finding it on their parents' phones. They're seeing pictures. They're seeing it a lot sooner, and so it's something that is, often considered to a child's eyes as bad or naughty or something that you're not supposed to talk about. So then it becomes this hidden thing that they've seen and now they're intrigued by, and so which can often lead to looking up things more and more, or maybe sharing that with their friends. And so a lot of times it can really lead to some negative behaviors, I think, early on.
I decided to talk to experts and students to see if they believe that sexual addiction is a mental illness.
I believe it, but it's not in our DSM or Diagnostic Statistical Manual yet. That's still being debated by a psychiatrist.
I think it's a real thing because, when you're doing it and then you stop, then you're gonna be wanting some more.
I think that it's not necessarily a disorder, but the symptoms certainly lead to early pregnancies, more abortions, HIV and the other sexually transmitted diseases.
Yes and no, kind of like we were just talking about. I think that, I don't know if people get addicted to the actual physical act, the sexual act per se, but more the behaviors associated with what sex acts get in trouble for, which is usually promiscuousness or cheating on a spouse?
No. And I say no only because I think it's an excuse men give to women when they cheat and have done like countless amount of cheating.
No, I don't. I don't, because I feel that sex addiction is not a mental addiction. I feel that it's something that can be controlled. And if you don't want to control it, just like any other addiction, it can get out of control.
According to the DSM, sexual addiction is not a real mental illness, but if you ask anyone who actually suffers from this addiction, they'll tell you that it is very much real.
You're putting your life or on hold. If it's messing with your social life, your work life, and your family life, then yes, it's a problem. Whether it's promiscuity or sexual addiction, and they can be one and the same, or they can be different, but it's still sexual addiction of some sort.